Alexis Bledel will always be best remembered for her TV roles such as Rory Gilmore on Gilmore Girls, but she has also had an impressive movie career too. After playing an uncredited role in Wes Anderson's Rushmore, Bledel would soon land the co-starring part in the aforementioned Amy Sherman-Palladino series. Gilmore Girls originally ran for 7 seasons, and is still one of the defining shows of the early 2000s. Though it came years before streaming, it set the tone for the sort of cozy comfort shows that have long since dominated the streaming charts. During her time on Gilmore Girls, Bledel also started her career as a film actor. Continuing her success as something of a teen idol, Bledel's early aughts filmography is filled with beloved favorites. Her movie success would begin to fade as the aughts gave way to the 2010s, though she would continue to make sporadic appearances on the big screen. Bledel then returned to TV, and landed meaty roles as an adult. She impressed on shows like Mad Men and The Handmaid's Tale, showing her full range. She even returned as Rory in Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life. Bledel has continued to act in movies ever since, though her more recent films have skewed toward indie projects. Nevertheless, her classic films are worth remembering, and hold certain nostalgic value. 6. The Conspirator, 2010. The Conspirator Alexis Bledel James McAvoy cropped. Highlighting a lesser-known corner of American history, The Conspirator isn't about President Abraham Lincoln's assassination, but rather about the fallout. James McAvoy stars as attorney Frederick Aiken, who is tasked with defending the lone woman who is charged as part of the conspiracy to kill the president. An all-star cast also includes Robin Wright and Kevin Kline. Alexis Bledel plays Sarah Weston, Aiken's girlfriend, who is torn by his decision to take such a controversial case. The role allowed Bledel to stretch her range a bit, and she was electric in scenes with McAvoy. While she's not central to the plot, she is one of the movie's many emotional cores that give the historical drama some life. Sadly, The Conspirator falls short of being a great, or even a particularly good movie, due in large part to its strict adherence to historical facts. It's an accurate portrait of the real-life story, but it often forgets to have the intrigue that makes movies more entertaining than dusty old history books. The performances are the true highlights, including Bledel's supporting role. However, with little else going for it, the movie is mostly forgettable. Steven Spielberg's Lincoln came a few years later and has completely overshadowed The Conspirator as the preeminent historical drama of the early 2010s. 5. Bride and Prejudice, 2004. Alexis Bledel smiles while talking in Bride and Prejudice. The multi-country co-production is, unsurprisingly, a loose adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, but Bride and Prejudice has a distinctly Bollywood flair. The movie borrows a lot of the highlights of the classic romance story, including the enemies-to-lovers plot, but is also a globe-trotting adventure that spans continents. In typical Bollywood fashion, it also has a lot of music. As far as adaptations go, Bride and Prejudice is just SOSO. It doesn't do anything clever with Austen's format, and is a one-for-one swap with a lot of the details and characters. However, it's stylish and breezy fun, which make for an entertaining watch. There are a ton of characters, and Alexis Bledel was mostly lost in the shuffle. Bledel appears as Darcy's sister, Georgina, who is only in the movie briefly. Her performance is strong, but there is a pointlessness to her appearance that somewhat lessens the entire experience. Bledel isn't really the focus, even when she's on the screen, so it's hard to say that she was necessarily indispensable. Bride and Prejudice is still one of Alexis Bledel's better movies, even if it isn't one of her best performances. It isn't good enough to compete with some of her true classics, but it has strong elements that elevate it above many of her more forgettable projects. 4. The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2, 2008. Lena and Costas in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants was a defining teen film from the aughts, and the sequel isn't half bad. The follow-up reunites audiences with the girls as they each try to tackle college, slowly drifting apart from one another as they grow up. It continues the coming-of-age themes, which makes it a nice companion to the original. Though the film doesn't try too hard to be different, that's understandable considering its subject matter. The sisterhood begins facing more mature issues, and the film grows up alongside the intended audience. The main cast reprises their roles, including Alexis Bledel as Lena, which further helps the sequel have emotional continuity. Bledel is in her element as Lena, and her will they won't they love story with Costas is exactly what the sequel needed. The film does an excellent job of spreading the screen time around, so that none of the main four are buried or don't have as much to do. It's a strong sequel because it understood what made the original great. However, it still loses points to some of Bledel's other films because it lacks originality. The predictability might help make it a comfort movie, but The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2 is so unambitious that it can sometimes feel pointless. It's a good movie, but pales compared to its predecessor. 3. Sin City, 2005. Alexis Bledel in Sin City biggest movie roles. Comic book icon Frank Miller was tapped to direct the adaptation of his own book in Sin City, and he helped revitalize the sagging comic book movie genre in the mid-aughts. The hyper-stylized send-up to noir recreated Miller's artwork on the big screen, and featured a massive cast including a lot of recognizable names. While most comic movies were trying to be family-friendly, Sin City reveled in its raunchiness, and it was mostly successful. It deftly balances a series of disparate storylines without feeling overstuffed or unfocused, and the over-the-top style is a nice change of pace. However, it can sometimes be groan-inducing in retrospect, and it hasn't aged terrifically. Playing Becky, Alexis Bledel fits well into the movie's cast, and she has a few moments to shine. She's somewhat different from her comic book counterpart in appearance, marking one of the few times that the movie opted to change a character's design for the big screen. She gives a strong performance, clearly understanding the exaggerated tone of the movie.